welcome to the red half of Sheffield, back for match day number 2. This time it's against Swansea City. Let's see if the Blades can round into form and surely not put on a bad league performances happened yesterday at the time of recording. To preview that one next Saturday at 3 p.m. kickoff against Swansea City, we have Luke from the SwansCast. Luke, how are you doing today?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me on as always. Excited to talk about the match.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about what happened yesterday in the past. Sum up yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, tricky start for us. It's deja vu in a way. We had the same opening fixture last year away at Middlesbrough, and the result was exactly the same as well, unfortunately. So didn't manage to change what happened a year ago. Different manager for both teams, but quite a similar game in different ways. I think it was two teams with a new manager looking to play a certain new way, which they might not have been used to, or that they're still learning and developing. So the match was quite tight. I don't think there was a lot of chances from either teams, and the defense. The defense probably was the strongest part. I think of both teams on display, and unfortunately, we were undone by a corner, a little bit of bad defending from the set piece, which perhaps often can be the case when you've got quite a few new players within the squad, but also you probably want to do a little bit better from those situations. Having said that, we are quite a short team, so perhaps that's going to be a bit of a thing for us this season, is defending set pieces. But that's what ultimately undid us. Unfortunately, it was a bit disappointed to see that we didn't look like it didn't feel like we were going to get back into the game, even at 1-0. You think sometimes you throw the kitchen sink at it to try and get something out of it, but I don't know. I just felt like there was one goal was going to win it, and as soon as that one goal went in, it was just it just played out. It didn't really. I didn't feel watching it that we were ever going to get something back, but it didn't look like we were going to concede a second either, if that makes sense. So that's a bit frustrating, but I guess there's work to be done when it comes to going forward and creating chances. That's all.
Yeah, and the one good thing is you have 45 more games to get the ship righted.
Yeah.
But no, I too watched your game against Middlesbrough, and you guys were a lot more competitive than I thought you would have been.
Yeah.
Now I don't think Middlesbrough is going to pull up any trees or be a good side, but I was more impressed by the improvement of Swansea yesterday, and that's something that I like saying because it feels for the last few years Swansea have been way off of it, and it's nice to see that they kind of have reeled it back in, and hopefully they figure out a style to play that brings more wins to
Yeah.
Swansea this season. What are your thoughts on the transfer window you guys have had this season? Your son.
Yeah, quite happy with the window so far, really. I just think we're a little bit short in some areas. We need a bit more depth. But in terms of the players that we've brought in, it's going to take a bit of time to see what they can really offer us and in terms of championship level. But Ethan Galbraith's an exciting signing brought in from Leyton Orient. He's been highly rated, performed well there over the last few years, and a Man United youth prospect. So he's been good. Zidane Inusau came on off the bench, probably was one of the more exciting players for the game yesterday, as much as he didn't do anything notably in the end. When he did have the ball, he was taking players on and getting past players, and it looked like he wanted to make something happen. So if we were going to get back into the game, it was going to come through something that he did. But obviously, it was his first appearance for the club, and he was also coming back from an injury picked up in pre-season, so perhaps not fully fit, but he looked a bit exciting. Cameron Burgess at the back as well. We lost Harry Darling. Cameron Burgess come in and looked a good asset in defence. Ben Cabango, who is obviously the one that's been here a long time, he's been out for all of pre-season basically with injury, and he went off injured in this game. They looked solid before that. It's a bit of concern. Hopefully it was just cramp and a bit of precaution with Cabango, but the defence hasn't looked stable in a lot of pre-season, but I think part of it is because of Cabango missing. They've been trying different things as the second centre-back with Burgess, and that's difficult when he's coming in to a new club. You want him to play alongside someone that's perhaps more familiar, so that we saw that in this game, and it did look a bit better. Like I said, we conceded from a corner. It wasn't necessarily from open play, and we didn't concede an awful lot of chances from open play either. So, yeah, it worked quite well there. The other one to look out for that we brought in technically in January, but he stayed on loan at the club we purchased him from, was Melka Vidal. Again, he didn't necessarily look to show anything yesterday, but he's one that is definitely excites us for the season. He's picked up a cap for Sweden since we signed him in January, so he's one that's highly thought of. He can play in the midfield area or kind of behind the striker or on the wing, so he's quite versatile. But quite a few players come in already. There's a couple of others I haven't mentioned that are perhaps not the ones that we're expecting to start that often. But we're still looking in areas, but we definitely need to still strengthen whether we utilize the loan market a bit more now, because I think the squad of the first team is quite strong. The only area really first team wise, maybe striker, is where we need to invest, because we need someone that's going to be more reliable when it comes to goal scoring. But the cover then in areas like centre back now, if Cabango doesn't end up being fit now, if he's injured again, or right back and left back, like a little bit of a concern if the first choice personnel there gets injured. Galbraith, who I've mentioned just now, can play right back, but that's not what he was brought in for. So if there's an injury to either of the wing backs, we're a bit stuck at the moment, because Carl Norton kind of left us at the end of the season. He's getting on a bit. He hasn't announced his retirement, but it looks like that's probably the case. So we just don't have cover, senior level cover in those areas. I think we'd have to dip into the youth team, which is fine, and I'm all for that. I'd like to see the youngsters coming through, but I don't think they've had necessarily enough game time to be thrown in at the deep end if there was a long-term injury, for example, which is something we probably need to do a better job at, making sure they are ready. But right now, I'm not sure they would be.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you hate that to happen too. You have so early in the season, it seems like you're getting into a bit of an injury crisis, right now, and that's a bit worrying. But hopefully, Swansea get the ship righted, and the injury crisis does kind of avert itself and work itself out. Obviously, before we play this game on Saturday, there is the Nobody Cares Cup that I'm hoping Sheffield United get knocked out of, and so we can just it's one of those things where we can concentrate on the league for the next couple of months. So with today being the day after the first match day of the season, if I asked you this question, where do Swansea finish in the last day of the season? What in your mind would be a success for Swansea this season?
Well, we finished 11th last year in a season where, it wasn't a great season by all accounts. We had a really good end to the season. We started okay. We kind of just fell apart in the middle when things that, our previous manager, Luke Williams, kind of self-destruct a little bit, and then that translated onto the performances on the pitch, and he just could not get himself out of that situation, and when the results were really poor, the performances got really poor, and we wasted 2 months of the season, essentially. And any sort of momentum that we had before or positives that we'd built through the season were just lost in the space of 2 months, just because of a bit of flirting with another club that happened that didn't actually come to anything. Completely derailed us. So we ended up finishing 11th after Sheehan took over caretaker, and that's ended up looking like a lot better season than perhaps it should have. So what I really want this year is the season stability. I'd like to see that Sheehan's still in charge when we get to that last game. And if he is, that probably means he's done a decent job. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to better the 11th place. I think it's not a guarantee, because I think that sort of part of the table can be quite tight. And as I mentioned, we finished 11th, where we say it's quite poor, but it could have been a case of if you end up finishing 11th, 12th, 13th, like I think Norwich, for example, but they were in the playoff hunt for a lot of the season. So a different version of their season is they fell off towards the end after they sort of stopped being involved in that playoff picture, and then it doesn't matter anymore. So I think anywhere around that sort of area is good for us. If we're going to build on the 11th place, that would be really good. If we can finish ahead of that, I think I've put like 10th in my table or 9th or something. Might be being a little bit optimistic, but there's no reason we can't get there, if he continues the work he did at the end of the season, if these new players can get established in the team and they can bring in a couple more now before the end of the window, there's no reason we can't get there. But I do understand quite often Championship is reliant on like we said, injuries and other stuff that might happen through the course of the year that could affect your trajectory a little bit with your momentum and stuff like that. So anywhere mid-table and a stable season with the same manager, that's really what I want to see this year.
Yeah, that's hopefully that happens, because you just hate when you get into a season and they sack the manager. You got somebody new coming in trying to install their new tactics, get their players in. If it's around a transfer window, it's just a mess doing that mid-season sacking. Okay, let's turn your attention to Saturday. How do you think you get on against Blades? 2-3-0. Ruben Saez got this sack after the game for getting hammered 3-0. The United faithful turning on him, the ownership. It's just, I mean, it'd be funny to watch from my end.
I'll be honest, I wasn't very optimistic about this game before the season started. I had Sheffield United as one of the teams that was going to do quite well this season. So I was not expecting the result, especially with you guys being at home, that happened at the weekend. Then we both gone into it on a defeat. And I'm sure that your guys will not come out about the same sort of performance, and there'll be stuff worked on and stuff corrected from that match, I would imagine. So people might look at that and think, oh, do you know what? It might not be as tricky a match as what we thought, but I don't know if it would be, if that's going to be the case. Like, even if you just look at your momentum chart, I know the scoreline is all that matters in the end, but looking just at the momentum, Sheffield had the ball. I'm sure there's stuff that just needs to click, maybe when it comes to the defensive partnerships and the formations and stuff like that, that's probably all they need to work on. And that could click by the time we play on, next weekend. So I want to get ahead of myself just looking at that one result. Also, let's not forget the narrative that you guys beat Bristol in the playoffs. Maybe there was a little bit of, they wanted to get one over sort of thing. Like, there's other stuff at play here that maybe let's just forget about it. It's a fresh start again for both teams. And I think it's going to be a tricky game for Swansea, because I still think that Sheffield is one of the teams pushing for a top 6 finish. And it'll be a good challenge. At home, obviously, we want to try and perhaps attack a bit more. Take the game to the opposition a bit more. I would like to see us try and create a few more chances than we managed against Middlesbrough. But time will tell on that one. It's still early days. Maybe I'll have a little bit more answers after the midweek cup game, but it's hard to know what to expect right now, because I couldn't even tell you really what our style is right now. It's quite difficult to sort of pinpoint that and talk about, right, this is what we do on the pitch, this is what we try to do. It wasn't quite clear yesterday. I think the priority was trying to shore us up at the back again and make sure we can build from that, so the attack isn't quite clicking. But obviously, if we don't lose games, at least you can build on the attack. I think that's where we are at the moment. So I think it'll be a tight game. If I had to choose, I'd probably say it's probably more edge towards Sheffield United, even with your result. But at home, hopefully we can sort of make the stadium a bit of a fortress. And I think even getting the first point on the board in this one would be positive for us and probably for yourselves as well.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know what our formation is based off the back of yesterday. It kind of looked like leave the opponents with plenty of space in their box, and they will slot it past the keeper. So considering they should have probably had about 7, I would have imagined. But yeah, all will be found out next Saturday, 3 p.m. kickoff. Luke, before we get out of here, drop where they can find SwansCast.
Just type it in on YouTube. All of our stuff goes there, and any podcasting platform as well. We generally upload in both places, so you can check us out in either of those. And then we're probably most active on Twitter when it comes to when it comes to posting on social media as well. We don't tend to post that much at the moment, to be honest. It's a bit, I don't know, just don't engage that much on there at the moment, which is probably out. We should do more, but we just don't at the moment.
Yeah. If you haven't done so, definitely check them out. Give them a listen, a follow if you would, please. If you haven't done so, Red Half of Sheffield all over social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. And I will end this one knowing that we have a match day after. I will preview match day 3 after this one. I believe it's against Ipswich. But until then, I will leave you with Up the Blades.